Forgiveness can ask for a lot. To forgive, there needs to be something to forgive. There might be a transgression, a hurt, a violation, a rule or boundary crossed, trust broken, and other situations which are serious and weighty. The path to forgiveness can be blocked if remediation or even acknowledgement would be useful, but the transgressing party refuses accountability or empathy. Forgiveness can be big and scary and ugly to get to or deal with. Forgiveness is hard. It makes it harder that we practice it so rarely, and the practice often comes with a lot of intense emotions, chaotic context, and time pressure. Some people rush forgiveness or try to skip it entirely to get to something that looks a little bit like peace, which is more like painting over dry rot and hoping for the best, but I can see why people try it. This can sometimes look like a conflict is still active, but someone wants to act sweet or make nice without doing any of the work to resolve anything. I'm not talking about keeping civil. I'm describing someone who ignores a situation to be forgiven, as if acting like all the work is already done. That's not great. This is a problem. I feel like you shouldn't do that, and it's not helpful. I feel one of the many reasons someone might skip or rush forgiveness is we don't practice it a lot. We're not good at it. If you don't have good examples, if you don't know what to do, and if you and the other person have different styles or ways of forgiving, I can understand and sympathize with just wanting to shove the whole thing under a rug and see if everyone can get along if you ignore things hard enough. I don't like it. I don't think it works, but I can try to understand. I also believe we should practice forgiveness more. Forgive ourselves to ourselves. Forgive innocent misunderstandings. Forgive issues after working things out. Forgiving something that will never be resolved as a gift to yourself, so you can leave the issue in the past while you move forward with better and different choices. Play is one way to get practice with forgiveness. Okay, so what does that look like? The simplest place to start, if only because there's only one person actively involved, is practicing forgiving yourself. Do I commit to myself that I want to practice dancing for an hour? But I choose to, and it's better for the long term that I stop after 45 minutes, and so I break my promise to myself? I should understand what's going on. Why did I set that hour? What pressures or expectations set that hour for me? Do I agree, once I think about it, with all the pressures that led me to choose an hour or led me to choose making a commitment for an hour? Maybe I need to make peace with letting go of a historical decision that needs to change. Maybe someone in my life is setting that hour and I need to talk with them about it. I feel I absolutely should offset breaking the hour promise to myself with giving myself credit for listening to whatever valid thing made me stop early. All of that is a lot to feel and a lot to look into background and reasons. That's a lot to think. It's a lot of work. I can get better at identifying what I feel and what I am comfortable doing around forgiveness by applying it when I play for myself. with other people, another example is when I was in a mahjong game that was extremely casual because we were there entirely to teach people. Of course, there were going to be misunderstandings and mistakes as people learn. I'm not the best teacher either. One misunderstanding that came to mind is that someone got confused about how many tiles to have in their hand during play. The game has 13 tiles when you start your turn, and the tile that you draw in your turn makes 14 that might let you win. The new player played with 14 tiles in their hand the whole game, so they had 15 tiles on their turn, which gave them a lot more choices and options. They won very quickly, and we discovered the extra tile when trying to score the game. Because a mahjong is a hand, it's literally force of the three like your fingers, and a pair like your thumb. All the joints. So we had like an extra little half of a thumb. It was very obvious very fast. It was nothing malicious on anyone's part. We all apologized to each other, made sure we were good, reassured the learner that they were okay, and kept going. We got to practice forgiveness. Not everything is forgivable, and so you can practice awareness. Not everything is forgivable, not in the remediation and reconciliation sense. Like the person you need forgiveness from has died. Sometimes the person or situation that is needed to give what is needed for forgiveness can start. Um, Maybe they just refuse. Not everything is going to be innocent. It's useful to start to learn to spot when forgiveness is blocked in a non innocent way early. A lot of the times, the end violation that looks like the part to be forgiven, that is just the tip of the iceberg of bad behavior. Learning to clock bad behavior early is very useful. Partially because there are sincerely people who think they are never wrong, rules don't apply to them, and getting away with something, even temporarily, just proves they're smart. Statistically, that's about 1 in every 40 people. I was at a conference with a lot of panels, so big crowd. The first 10 minutes of every panel was set aside for setting norms, like the introductions, the rules of engagement, what we're going to talk about, etc., etc. There was one person who always shut up only after 10 minutes. They were a problem. As in, eventually, very late in the conference, they actually bit another attendee with their teeth. Problem. Not my opinion that they were a problem. Fighting. Yes, this was a full-grown adult. But because they arranged to not be present for the norms, they kept using ignorance as an excuse for their behavior. Up until the biting, that is. In a big conference, it is really easy to get away with that. Sometime on the second day when they came in late, I would start to ask the presenters to please take a moment to bring the late person up to speed so they could participate more fully. Half the time, the presenters excused the lateness and kept going. Then he was a problem. Other times, the presenters did read the late person in, and the late person would often left early and didn't participate. By the third day, if they saw me in the room, they sometimes didn't even enter the room, just because they didn't want to be accountable to the rules. In the early sessions, when the late person caused an issue, that issue looked like the thing that needed remediation and maybe forgiveness, when actually it was this person's willful pattern of being above the rules that needed to be addressed. Sometimes forgiveness, or not, takes digging, but that can also be practiced during play. For example, my cousins and I are cutthroat Monopoly players. It was understood that we would try to steal from each other and other bad behavior, but we all agreed. We dug down and made agreements. That rule breaking wasn't anything to forgive because it was part of the fun of the game. But we also understood that it was not okay to steal from each other, just the bank. We learned situational moral ambiguity playing Monopoly, which is a little bit too much on the money. Another cousin example is house rules for Uno, where we could stack and pass on Collect 4 as many times as we had cards. If 6 rounds passed with everyone having another Collect 4 to play, the unfortunate person who didn't have a Collect 4 to keep going had to collect 24 cards. There's even a type of lawn game called Red Light, Green Light, where it's actually part of the official rules to sneak and cheat, a little bit like stealing bases in baseball. So we also learned unofficial limits on ignoring the official limits, which means I know that category exists. I feel what that category feels like. I have more of a chance to recognize it because it's a named concept and not something new or mysterious when somebody is acting outside the rules, innocently or maliciously. Gaming gave me a little bit more of a sense for rule breaking, so I can choose fast and leave early, forgive myself for not winning the game because it was unfair, and walk away not beating myself up for losing, advocate for a fun type of rule breaking I can see as otherwise fair and enjoyable, choose to call the person out in the moment and get into it, or quietly choose to never deal with that person again, or otherwise treat them as the problem they are, or any number of other ways to deal with things. All of which I get to choose because of early awareness. Cultivating yourself using the opportunities for forgiveness in playing situations, whether it's laughing at yourself for playing a violin so hard you break the string, or having to chase down someone at a bubble blowing festival who didn't understand the bubble blowing wands needed to be returned and had owners, or something like that, builds the awareness to stop situations that might lead to needing forgiveness early. It gives you the experience to learn self-composure when something legitimately wrong and distressing happens, so you can help yourself with more resources and more skills and more wisdom. Forgiveness is hard. Play can be a workshop to do the hard thing more safely and easily. Thank you for joining me today. If you liked this, please consider subscribing. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday.